with the conspiracy and compromise of some of the collaborating informants and what have you. It is generally known that highly placed people, top government functionaries, even amongst the top echelons of the police, army, and other security agencies have been involved in the insecurity in Katsina as well as Zamfara. Don't forget, before the convening of the Northwest Security Summit that had all the northwestern governors in attendance, sponsored by United Nations Development Program, His Excellency the Governor of Katsina did come out clearly to say that he had credible intelligence that top government functionaries are involved.
Hello. Like we dey play, it is show. You see, this has become a norm in Nigeria that Nigerian media, Boko Haram overpowered the Nigerian military, Nigerian army, and taking over their armored tanks. And you go on to is it Arise News, you will still see Bandit sees Nigerian Army armored carrier in Zaria, in an area called no, in Zamfara, I mean to say in Zamfara. You will see the news as they play, it is show. I want you to watch, listen, and then tell yourself ask yourself, what really is this thing you call a country becoming? Is this going to be a place habitable for any? When the insurgency is taking over, the military, the police taking over their barracks, and no solution, and no solution is coming from anywhere. Watch the video.
Security challenges with a seasoned security expert who joins us now in the studio is Saliu Dantata Ahmed. I got that?
You're right.
All right. He's a security expert. Thanks very much for joining us on Newsnight.
Pleasure.
Very disturbing story from Zamfara again, which has become the epicenter of the Turji terrorist group, destabilizing the entire Northwest, particularly the mining of gold in that place. But let's look at the security situation, how the troops came, under fire, but the troops repelled the bandits, right?
Well, in the first place, there were a lot of negligence at the part of the troops because professionally, as defense forces, they have strategies before movement. There ought to have been advanced weather, check, as well as advanced intel on weather in order to know whether it is right or it was right at that time to have moved the troops. Even though we can't blame the weather because, it's natural. But the issue about Zamfara is that there are inhabitants of these areas, Talata Mahara, Zurmi, Tsahe, Kotorkoshi, Shinkapi, and host of others, where some of the inhabitants of these local areas knows where the Bello Turji boys are. Of recent, a former member of the State Assembly, Honorable Shuaibu Gwanda, did say he can oblige himself, he can make himself available to show the security forces, whether the police, army, air force, or who, where these Bello Turji and cohorts are, as well as Honorable Boza. So the issue we are saying here...
Saliu, say, the issue is not where the whereabouts or the location of Turji. The Nigerian security forces, they know it. The game here is some people at the top, the politicians who've brought these criminal elements into the country, are the ones extending and making the work of the military difficult. Don't you? You're a security expert.
Well,
is that not the situation?
That is the secondary situation. But the primary situation also has to do with the conspiracy and compromise of some of the collaborating informants and what have you. It is generally known that highly placed people, top government functionaries, even amongst the top echelons of the police, army, and other security agencies have been involved in the insecurity in Katsina as well as Zamfara. Don't forget, before the convening of the Northwest Security Summit that had all the northwestern governors in attendance, sponsored by United Nations Development Program, His Excellency the Governor of Katsina did come out clearly to say that he had credible intelligence that top government functionaries are involved, top security echelons are involved. Since then, neither the National Security Advisor nor the Commander-in-Chief, who is the president,
the former National Security Advisor, you would say.
There's
just a new one now.
We are talking about it. Diko Rada said it. The Northwest Security Summit was organized under Diko Rada as governor, and this National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribado, was already on seat. So the Northwest Security Summit was just of recent, and he made this statement. Immediately they came back from United States of America. Don't forget, Northwestern governors went to United States of America on security, this lingering security issue. Aftermath of when the UNDP funded them and the governor of Katsina State pioneered it, then we had the deputy governor of Kano State, we had the governor of Kaduna, Kebbi, Jigawa, Sokoto, and as well as Katsina, attending in Katsina State, where you had higher echelons of the security and other resource persons attending. So the issue here of this error in Zamfara State is, one, there ought to have been technical support for any movement of the troops, because in general warfare, leave the insurgency and armed banditry, in general warfare of the military is a standard military terminology where if you are moving armor, personnel carrier, or any of the high capacity equipment, you must have technical support where you have your army engineers as well as others. Like that kind of a muddy place, we have army engineers that ordinarily will have done some gimmicks to be able to make maneuver, the APC move. So that is what brings us to the question of who is somewhere masterminding, who is somewhere not wanting this armed banditry in Zamfara, Katsina, Sokoto, and Niger, not wanting it to end. So the issue is about politics and business. Don't forget, there is gold mine in Zamfara State where there are allegations of even retired generals from that state involved, as well as former governors, senators, and also others. The issues are our judicial system, our security apparatus, especially the civil police that are empowered, as well as the DSS, with intelligence gathering, as well as apprehending and charging such suspects to court, have failed in their responsibility. There are certain forces in Zamfara, Katsina, and Sokoto that are above the law. In the last administration of Muhammadu Buhari, he had promised Nigerians that he was going to gazette and publish the names of people sponsoring terrorism. All they brought were people operating Bureau de Change, as well as some skeletal people, not retired generals that are involved, not former governors, senators, as well as ministers. So I think we must bring policy of live and let live. Like a late governor of Lagos State in the Second Republic, Alhaji Lateef Jakande, used to say, if you lack patriotism, selflessness, determination, and commitment to nation building, you have lost everything. So I think it is high time for President Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu, because it appears he has the zeal, but what is lacking is for him to be able to use the sword, to be able to use the cane, to look elsewhere and say, no matter who you are, the state is above anybody. So the problem in Zamfara, Katsina, and Sokoto, particularly Zamfara, is problem of gold as well as problem of politics. There are some people that want to divest as well as divert certain attention of certain people. So the issue is...
So it's not the fault of the Nigerian military. They are doing their best.
No, they also have their...
They are not even well-funded. Are they well-funded?
With due respect to the Nigerian armed forces, in the past Buhari administrations, trillions of naira was expanded for procurement of Tucano, drones, and other high-power weapons. Even though we have Defense Industries Corporation in Kaduna, the most shameful thing of all this is that in the Northwest, in the former colonial capital, where the premiership had its headquarters, Kaduna, you have the Armed Forces Command and Staff College in Jaji,
You have all
Infantry
the
School, NDA,
military
Air Force
headquarters,
Training Ground,
formation,
Force
yeah.
Mechanized Division. Then in Sokoto there you have a division. In Gusau you have cantonment. So I think this brings us to the call for immediate restructuring of the entire security architecture. And when I say the entire security architecture, Army, Navy, Air Force, police, and others for efficiency.
Sorry, Sally, when you're talking of the influence, untoward influence of politicians, top-level politicians who are destabilizing the country and hindering the efforts of the military, what has it got to do with restructuring? Are you saying the Nigerian armed forces are generals, officers, and men are not superbly trained? They perform fantastically well overseas. They are deliberately being hampered. You just said that.
Absolutely. If I vividly recall, the same armed forces that have refused to perform geometrically, even though with due respect, they've been trying and recording some successes, because the northeastern part now is getting to 70% of success on the sustained onslaught against the Boko Haram insurgency.
Yeah.
But as regards
Sokoto,
Zamfara, and Katsina, I would
and
call them
Niger,
and Niger. I would score them 30%. When the bandits had notified that they were going to attack 101 Battalion in Kanji, Niger State, as well as the air weapons, because some of the apprehended and imprisoned inmates of Boko Haram are in Kanji, 101 Battalion, and what have you. The commanding officer then, alongside the commandant of the air weapons school, collaborated and used some of the modern gadgets. In fact, they blocked road from Kanji to Wawa, where even the local chief was complaining that people have been subjected to use bushpad for it's not right and what have you. At the time the bandits came to invade 101 Battalion, 221, as well as air weapons school, they all collaborated rather than the members of the armed forces recording casualties. It was at the part of the bandits, including seizing some of the vehicles they brought and weapons. The commanding officer as at that time can be called to see. So if that can happen in Kanji, where you have the largest dam, how come that of Zamfara is not happening? So, and that is why we are saying that at this time that this APC was, caught by this muddy land and also of other things, were they to be their engineers and technical support, they will have immediately evacuated it. Then again, what happens to, even though they said it rained on that day, but in countries like United States of America, Russia, and Germany that have advanced, there should be certain fighter jets that can sustain any weather, whether it is raining or not. So that brings us to the question of what was the amount, all the monies used under Buhari and even under this administration. It means they did not procure the sophisticated weapons that ought to withstand this kind of warfare.
There is a lot of politics in the